The best of the worst?
Yeah, the best of the worst.
So bad they're good.
Our top 5 guilty pleasures. So I'm gonna have to figure out which ones actually start from 5 to 1. Yeah, I'm gonna start with this. Okay, so spoilers. So number 5 for me is a classic. Is a very old movie from '88.
Very old movie.
Sorry. Is a movie from '88 called The Unnameable. It was directed by Jean-Paul Ouellette. It's essentially it's a slasher monster horror movie adaptation of a Lovecraft short story. It even has Randolph Carter, signature character from Lovecraft stories, and Lovecraft himself, as well as I think his name is I think one of the characters' name is Henry, and one of them is named Philip. And they're at Miskatonic University. They're Miskatonic University students, and this movie starts off with one of them telling the tale of a local legend about a creepy monster who stared out of a window of an old, abandoned Victorian house for so long that its face imprinted on the window. And so whenever anybody goes there to see it, they see this horrifying creature's face in the window. And it's been even further distorted because of the windows, age and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it starts off as kind of it's like your standard slasher movie kind of trope where I don't believe in it, or it's if you don't believe in it, then you won't have any problem going into that horror in that haunted house and investigating it. And so it just essentially becomes a slasher flick where they get a couple more friends in on this, mainly jocks from MU's football team, I guess, the mighty deep ones, whatever, and they go into the this house and just start getting picked off one by one by the creature that lurks within it. It's a stupid movie. I'm not gonna lie. It's silly, but goddamn, do the actor that plays Randolph Carter and the guy who plays Phil, I believe, are probably the funniest dynamic duo, because Randolph is just this super preppy but knows everything, and he's like that guy from Scream where he watched all the horror movies and he knows everything, but he's not a stoner. It's if he was just a competent college kid. And then Phil is just this dweeb who wants to impress the girl that he wants to hook up with. So he invites her and her ex-jock friend to go in there, and they he doesn't get her, but he gets her exchange student love interest. It's again a stupid horror movie, but I love the characters' reactions, and I love the amount of tropes that were put into what is otherwise a Lovecraft story. It's what if somebody took Lovecraft and just decided, hey, that'll make a good Friday the 13th style horror movie.
Which is never the case.
Exactly. But I love it for it, God damn it. So, yeah, if you're still interested after that. Also, it has an amazing, Tangerine Dream style song, end theme, as the paramedics show up to come and investigate the house because they actually are able to contact people. And as they're all driving off, and the house pans away from the house, you get this rocking fucking Tangerine Dream theme in the background. I love it. So that's my first one.
My fun one is I'll be surprised if this isn't on your list too. The Reanimator.
It isn't.
Yeah. That's okay, because you're gonna get to gush now. Yeah.
Speaking of Lovecraft horror movies, Lovecraft movies, stories that were turned into horror movies.
This is,
how you do it right, kind of.
This is, again, it's just a fucking perfect storm of this is so bad, it's good. And, you knew that just watching this movie, the actors are just having a fucking hoot.
Oh, yeah.
They know what they know what they're putting their time into. Yeah. And they don't care.
Yeah.
They're having a ball. Fuck it, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And fun they have, and it translates straight to the audience.
Yeah. Jeffrey Combs, man.
Yeah.
He fucking, portrays the mad scientist to a T in that movie.
He just fucking revels in it, too. everything about that movie is just a hoot and a half.
It's like, wait, he's dead? Not anymore.
Yeah, like, it's just, the actors are having a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, the fucking story is just, it does stray a little bit from the original story a lot. Well, first off, it's not 1920s New England, and but it's also like, there's just so many things that are like, they draw from some stuff and then they just go their own way because it's the 80s. Yeah. Fuck it. And it's like, I was actually torn because this one could have almost made like my favorite just because it's fun. I don't know, it's just it kind of straddles the line, but at the end of the day it's a bad movie.
Yeah,
but by God, I love it that much.
For me, that would almost kind of tie in with The Unnameable because they're both so similar in terms of like why I like both of them.
But it's it's so bad it's good.
And that series is still it was going up until like I think a couple of years ago because they actually did a new one with Jeffrey Combs and like something about the president. It was like House of the Reanimator or something, and it was like it was like a stupid, and it had Jeffrey Combs in it too. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
but Jeffrey Combs and the fucking the guy who eventually just becomes a head with Batwing.
Yes, yeah.
Those two guys just made that franchise. But that movie just those two guys made that movie just so fucking watchable.
Yeah.
And without them, I honestly think it would have just been maybe not a piece of garbage, but just not as much.
It would not have. Jeffrey Combs really owns.
It wouldn't have made any list. It wouldn't have made any list.
Yeah.
And with them, it makes this list.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're proud of that, it's up to them. But
yeah. All right. So my next one is going to be Stay Alive, which. You die in the game, you die in real life.
Oh, man.
Right? So, this is I think turn of the 20th century, or 21st century, or...
Yeah, it's a millennium movie.
Yeah, millennium movie. And it's exactly...
It fucking stars Frankie Muniz.
Frankie Muniz, a couple of other actors that did okay in TV shows and are now movies. It's essentially about a group of friends who are all gamers in Louisiana or in like New Orleans. They find one of the person's friends supposedly commits suicide or is killed horribly. And a couple of his effects are given to one of the characters. One of the things being a copy of this new video game that he was beta testing called Stay Alive. So, these gamers have to play this game, and so they play through the game. And boom, this this horrible like ghost curse creature comes after them now. And like they start at first, it's like it starts picking them off in the game, and then it starts picking them off in real life. So it just goes, and so they have to like figure out what the mystery is and find out who the game developer was, and then they have to go to that place and hunt and stop it. We lose a couple of very memorable characters. Like I kind of was sad when some of the characters actually died because while it's it's not a great movie, it's no Poltergeist, but. Over the course of the movie...
But it was a genuinely fun movie.
Yeah, over the course of the movie, you learn to love some of these characters. Like,
I don't know about love, but...
I mean, in that, like, bad, silly way. Like, they were very much caricatures. And it's just... I don't know. I also... another, like, guilty pleasure for me is that I love video games incorporated in horror movies. So, it kind of... Like, I love incorporating new, like video games and, like, VHSs and stuff. It's why I like... Kind of like The Grudge 2 or The Ring. It's just a different version of that, essentially. You die in the game, you die. And that fucking, like, slogan is just hilariously awesome. You die in the game, you die in life.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, when I first saw this movie, I was just like, oh, man, I can't, like, I was kind of hoping that game would have existed. And it sounded like, from what I listened in the commentary, like, director's commentary, it sounded like they were hoping that movie, they'd get enough, like, funding from the movie to make that game. But yeah, it's just a silly romp into like a cursed video game. And again, maybe that's why I also like video game creepypastas. It's probably why. So if you like creepypastas like Ben Drowned or whatever, like from our previous show, from like previous parts of the show that we've done, this is a movie for you, I've got to say. So
that was just
yeah, it really was.
All right. So yeah, my number 4. I've tried to tactfully avoid talking about this movie because it's almost come up several times. Poltergeist 3.
Yes.
A trilogy that started off so high, fell so low.
It almost as if somebody cut the cable on the elevator and it went flying down the shaft.
It was like the third Poltergeist movie. It's got Tangia, it's got Carol Ann, and that's probably why it makes the list.
Yeah.
Is because it still has those, so it's still incredibly fun.
One thing it did wrong, though.
One thing?
Oh, several things it did wrong.
So much wrong.
One of the things it did wrong, though.
But Carol Ann this time is now off, like,
away from her
family has, basically, to help deal with the situations, like, that have arisen because of the previous two movies. They've, sent her off to live with her aunt and uncle and cousin, who
stay at a hotel?
Live in a high-rise.
Okay, that's what it was, yeah. It's been a couple of years since
it's a high-rise, and her uncle owns it, and it's, I don't know, it's a fucking convoluted thing. But yeah, basically, the fucking preacher from the second movie, because he was not in the first one, comes back and starts, invading her life, and they bring in Tangia. No, Tangia fucking gets... She's hanging out in Florida, and she's like, fuck, I gotta go. She's having, like, iced tea with the girls. She's like, I gotta go. Fucking boards a plane. Off she goes. Fucking cue superhero music. And it doesn't fucking matter, because it's Tangia.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's just... They do so many things right. They do enough things right to make it fucking fun. But they do so much wrong. Huge play on mirrors and dark reflections and all that jazz. Yeah. And honestly, it's such a fun movie.
And they do actually break the rule, I think, from the previous ones, where they actually do kill a couple.
Oh, they kill people.
They kill people at swaths.
Maybe not left and right, but they definitely... This movie has a higher kill count than any of the other ones, I'm sure of it.
I don't think the other ones had any kill counts.
Grandma dies in the second one. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah. But I don't even think it has to do with the ghost. I think it's just she dies of natural causes.
Yeah, she died because of old age. Yeah.
She died because she's old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, this movie kills people.
Yeah.
And I'm so okay with it.
Although I wasn't quite okay with Tangia dying. That was sad. It was like, why?
She died. She sacrificed herself to finally put an end to Carol Ann's, to the ongoing. Because, I mean, at this point, okay, clearly the preacher man is not going to give up until he goes into the light. So Tangia sacrifices herself so that, she can lead him to whatever his afterlife is and leave this poor girl alone. There are worse ways for a hero to go,
True.
Like, she dies a hero's death. Honestly, the whole fucking movie didn't need to be made. But I am so thankful it is, because it is such a fucking train wreck. It is just... It misses the point entirely of the first movie and just fucking sucks so bad, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, I'm sorry that they ever made even a second Poltergeist movie, but at the same time, it kind of redeems itself because we get this horrible fucking awesome to watch movie that is just so full of badness. But again, like, the acting in it is superb. And it's fun to watch these actors, they're not just going through the motions. They're they're making a movie. They're doing the best they can, and yeah, so bad it's good.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, it's part of a beloved franchise for me, so, you know, you get points just for the title sometimes, and this is one of those times, and then,
And then it just kind of,
Might not be a good movie, but fuck me, it's a fun ride.
Well, much like how, like, you just said, like, you're, like, it's a bad movie, but it's a good, fun, like, movie to watch, and it's tied to a good series. My next one is there on a very similar scale to that. The later Friday the 13th movies. I'm not counting 1 or 2 on this Guilty Pleasures, because 1 and 2 would have made my top 5 or my runners-up, but I just had so many of them.
You could honestly put every, like, end of the slasher franchise.
Yeah. But yeah, like, from Friday the 13th...
Every slasher franchise.
From Friday the 13th in 3D to, like, Friday the 13th... or Jason X... that series just goes bananas with ideas. Like, it starts off like it's Friday the 13th, so it's the slasher flick of Jason, with the hockey mask, and his whole his routine of just cutting down swaths of people. In woods or in, like, camping trips or just in a small town, wooded town.
I so cannot argue with you on this.
And they just escalate from the three in 3D. It's just like, all right, he gets the mask, and I think he gets a mask, but
I think it's 3.
Yeah, in 3D he gets the mask. And they play around with the 3D gimmick so hilariously in that movie. Like
the 3D. Friday the 13th movies, because I don't know if there's only one.
I think there was only one.
Regardless, it's so guilty of 3D abuse.
Oh, yeah.
It is just like,
I think 3D, and then the remake that came out, or like, sorry, the new one, the newest one that I don't know. I think it's a remake because it takes place after. It essentially fills in the role of 3D, or no, it fills in the role of the second one. Where
the remake covers 1, 2, and 3 pretty much, like, all in one movie. And it actually did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I didn't actually hate that one as much.
I expected to fucking hate that movie.
Yeah.
Just because it was the first Friday the 13th movie, but
we've seen it in a decade.
There was Jason.
Yeah.
Jason he wasn't the killer in the first Friday the 13th movie. So on principle alone, I had to hate it, but then I watched it and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They cover his mom killing all. Okay,
exactly,
I can deal with this.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and then later on in the series, like, we get the ones, like, there's just memorable moments in other ones. Like, there's like...
Fucking Jason Goes to Manhattan.
Exactly. Like, Jason versus a psychic. I think I think the one prior to that one, or like, and yeah, Jason, like, goes to Manhattan where he's on a cruise ship, on a ship with a bunch of teens that are, like, doing, like, some kind of a like school trip or something like that, and he just starts cutting them down.
At that point, they've missed the fucking point of the franchise, because I mean, like, he haunts Crystal Lake.
Yeah,
why is he in Manhattan? Fuck it. Well, let's shoehorn him into Manhattan.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, they're silly, stupid movies, but they have canonical...
They put a lot of effort into getting him into Manhattan.
They do, but they have a lot. Like, again, like, how does he keep coming back? Well, they did technically kill him off in, like, one of the earlier ones, but then the next one, he gets jolted with electricity and becomes a zombie, or a Revenant-style zombie or a Frankenstein monster kind of thing. And that's how we resurrect him. Also, like you had mentioned once off the recording, they keep his mask almost perfectly intact, like in the shape it should be.
His mask has cannon.
Yeah.
Like, what happens, like, when they get a machete into the side of the mask in the next movie? It's
got a giant gouge.
A chunk, yeah.
And, like, the world develops as the stories go on. Like, the town of Crystal Lake changes its name because it doesn't want to be associated with the massacres that's been going on because it's bad for tourism. That's, like, a cool little development piece. It's like it's only mentioned, like, once, but it's like, I'm glad they put that in there. And then Jason X is just so goddamn stupid.
You're ignoring Jason Goes to Hell.
I'm sorry, I am.
And by ignoring, I mean you're forgetting, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm forgetting that one.
Because, don't get me wrong, Jason X is probably...
It's
probably the worst. But Jason Goes to Hell is really bad.
Yeah. It is. Also, Jason vs. Freddy? Do we count that one?
Well, yes, that
that is an awesome little spin-off movie.
It's awesome but bad. But awesome.
It's awesome and it's iconic because recently they announced that there's going to be a Sadako versus Kamiko, or essentially the Ring versus the Grudge in Japan. And the first thing that I came up with that I thought of is so it's Jason versus Freddy in Japan. It's like there's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason why that shit stuck. They're all fun movies to watch just because of how bad they are as horror movies. They completely miss the point of the original movies.
Well, and at some point I think they realized that they're just they're not horror movies, and they just started having fun with it.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah. And that remake, actually, I would say it's kind of like the same syndrome for me, felt with a non-horror thing. First, the Rambo series. First Blood, I enjoy the fuck out of. Second and third one, I actually don't like as much. I actually enjoy First Blood because it's so much. They're not it's
First Blood is a great movie.
Drama is a war drama style movie. It's not. There's action in it, of course.
It's a social commentary.
Yeah.
Whereas 2 and 3 are fucking
just
action
straight up
movies.
Action flicks. And then the third one is kind of like a nice blend of the
book,
two.
That First Blood, the book, is, I'm pretty sure John Rambo dies at the end.
Yeah.
And,
they decided to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's the same thing with missed it's almost like they missed the point of what the book was trying to tell with the social commentary in the movie, because Rambo's just so awesome he can take out insurgents in Vietnam or whatever conflict we're dealing with right now.
Well, yeah, and the first movie got that. It's the subsequent sequels that missed that point.
Yeah, and then the last one, just Rambo, is actually, I thought, was actually a nice blend of the seriousness from the commentary on the first one, and then just the action of the other one.
Yeah, just so fun. Him I don't know. I like John Rambo going home too.
Yeah, exactly. It was a nice end to it. But anyway, back to
We're digressing the fuck out of that.
Oh yeah, that's the same kind of feels I get for the Friday the 13th movies. While I love the let's face it, action of all the stuff and the parody or the silliness of some of the sequels, they definitely missed the point of the first two at least movies.
Yeah,
but then they kind of brought it back with the third one or with that remake, because it was a lot more broad.
Because it was a remake.
Yeah,
it wasn't a sequel.
Yeah, but it was still kind of it was. It brought it back to the original ones, to the themes. So yeah, go if you like silly, just gory slasher flicks. Go see any of the remake or any of the sequels to Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, they're yeah.
The 80s were rife with slasher flicks and horror movies of that type.
80s and 90s.
Yeah. All right.
Well, the.
This is your number 2?
This is number 3, man.
Right, sorry, your number
3. Yeah, the 13 Ghosts remake. Honestly, it's actually it's 13th Ghosts and 13 Ghosts and House on Haunted Hill and House of Wax remake, because I'm pretty sure the originals were all made by the same guy, and the remakes were all made by the same guy. I mean, a different guy than the originals, but the same guy. They're just so fucking... I don't know. I honestly, I haven't seen most of the originals for this. I've seen the original House of Wax, and that was actually pretty fun. But, specifically, it's 13 Ghosts, for me, is just the campiest. Yeah.
That's actually another word for the Friday the 13th sequels. But yeah, campy.
It's just so much. It's such a fun movie. It's actually a well done movie. It's just a really bad well done movie.
Yeah, but man, they put
that
effort
fucking
into those
house
designs.
is ridiculous.
Yeah,
the 13 Ghosts are all really well done.
Yeah, they're all lovingly designed, and there was some thought put into what the ghosts all represented and what they were to look like.
Yeah,
because of it.
And these movies, all of these movies, where they can, they use practical effects and Like, the 13 ghosts are people in costumes when
They're
it's
not
possible.
CGI.
It's just, it knows when to use real effects. It does know when to use, CG, because there's some shit that you just can't do in real life. But
oh god, I just remember, the house the house moving and like the traps.
Yeah, it was it's a bad movie, but man, I fucking enjoy it. So much fun for me. And I mean, honestly, if someone came to me and said this is a great movie, I'd be like, I have to agree to disagree with you. I can't begrudge someone's opinion on that, just because, you know what?
Production-wise, there's a lot going for it, and the story, though, is really cheesy.
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't know, this is one of those movies that feels like it's just such a fun love story to bad movies.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, I could almost believe that they meant to put out what they put out, and I was supposed to think it was bad and love it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's definitely the highlight of. I think that was also a 2000 millennial movie.
And the acting in it is actually really good. I mean, I can never remember that guy's name.
Monk, the guy who played Monk.
No, not him.
Oh no, okay.
Tony Shalhoub. Don't get me wrong, he's good.
Yeah.
But it's the other guy, the psychic. He is so much fun. The actor who plays him, again, I
only watched the
I'm so remiss that I don't know this guy's name, because I love him and everything I see him in. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So much fun. I thoroughly enjoy this movie.
Cool.
But yeah, so we're up to number 2 for you.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so my number 2 movie, Guilty Pleasures movies, this is a series again, because we can't just select one of them from some of these movie series, because they're better as a whole than they're better as the sum of their parts, or some metaphor like that. I don't know. Number 2 is the Critters series of films. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, it's just an alien creature that is essentially a fluff ball with teeth. Or a gremlin, like a squat version of a gremlin mixed with a mogwai, comes down to Earth after being on a prison ship, and kind of like Lilo and Stitch. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's the same kind of plot except gone wrong and horrible. And these things just start terrorizing a small town, and they start terrorizing a small like a farm, a family and their farm, and whoever goes near the house, the farm starts getting eaten, and then bounty hunters from space come down and start hunting them down through the town and start making a ruckus in town, and eventually find their way to the farm. And it turns out they're not actually they're bounty hunters, but they're not bad people or bad aliens. So they spare the family and save the day kind of thing, but at a cost of a couple of body count, a pretty lengthy body count. Then the second one, it cuts to a couple of years in the future. One of the kids from the first one comes back to the hometown, and he's kind of shrugged off or looked down upon because of he's the kid that he's from that family that were really weird, and everybody's forgotten the incidents that happened, or they thought it was just a stupid hoax thing or something for them to try and get money for their farm because it blew up. And then it turns out the critters left eggs. So the eggs hatch and the eggs hatch and start causing mischief again on this town and on a larger scale. And the bounty hunters show up again, and it's just so much silly because the bounty hunters shapeshift into people that they look at and stuff. And so the one was a male. He goes back to his blank form, and then finds a porno magazine and becomes the porn star. And so it's just this badass dude who's the leader is this rocker dude because he's rocking a rocker on a concert and on a TV signal before they came to Earth. And then we have a porn star in decked out in space bounty hunter gear and tacking these giant furballs with teeth. And causing super amounts of collateral damage. Also, we have this goofy style sidekick that wants to join up with the bounty hunters to help save the town. And the whole thing is it's a horror movie, but it's the campiest of horror movies. And then the third one, we actually debuted Leonardo DiCaprio as his in his first movie, and it took it from out of a small town in the countryside to a apartment complex in the city. And it just, again, more shenanigans with the critters and dealing with the different tenants of this household, of this apartment. And there were just varied, like, caricatures of people. And then the fourth and final one is Critters Go Back to Space. And it's set, like, 200 years in the future, but continues, actually, from the last one, because the Goofy character, who's actually become a bounty hunter at this point, gets trapped in suspended animation when the critters get shot back up into space, and so he's 200 years in the future now, having to deal with critters on a poor man's Battlestar Galactica set, or a poor man's Alien set. And it's just, the whole series has a continuity to it, has development of the world, even if it's stupid and campy, and there are legitimate moments in the movie where, like, you kind of feel for some of the characters, or the characters have, like, an interesting turn, or, like, an interesting change of heart, or moments. So I just really love it for, again, it's that Gremlin-style monster, like those rip-off monsters that came out after Gremlins, like Critters, the Ghoulies, all those. And it's just a stupid, silly horror, monster horror series. So I love it for that. It epitomizes my love for, like, those horror monster movies from the 80s. That's mine.
All right, well, my number 2, this is when I break my no Stephen King rule, because this movie has... I was talking about the list with the wife, and I talked about this one scene, which is why this movie is on this list. Well, yeah. And she was like, well, this has to be on the list because your eyes are just, like, glinting. I was like, okay, I'll break the rule for this one movie. It's Stephen King's The Night Flyer. So good. So bad. Based on a short story, which is why it actually, makes a movie with a decent runtime. It's a vampire who basically just travels from Pissant airport, or landing strip, basically, to Pissant landing strip, flying around a Cessna, and a reporter who's following him. It's super fun, but there is one scene that makes it stand out. The reporter following him lands at the airport, and it's a fucking abattoir. Like, it's death everywhere. So he goes to the bathroom, and he's fucking splashing water on his face, and the door opens and closes, and there's footsteps, and he looks up, and there's water dripping from his face, but he's looking in the mirror, he can't see anything. And then you hear the zip, and a stream of blood piss flows from nowhere into the urinal.
I knew it. As soon as you said through the mirror, I was like,
and I was just like, oh, that is so fun.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I mean, everything else about this movie is, it's actually a good adaptation of the book. But at the same time, it's so, like, when you're reading it in a book, it's fine, but when you try and translate it to a movie, it just kind of, I don't know, it loses what makes it good, and now it becomes silly. And it's so much fun. I don't, like, yeah, it's just, this movie would have made the list anyway, maybe, but because of that one scene where guy watches a vampire take a piss through the mirror, it's so worth it. It elevates it so much more.
That attention to detail of vampiric lore, or for of modern vampire lore, is perfect. I like, as soon as you said mirror, and I was like, oh man, what's gonna happen that the guy can't see through the mirror?
And it's so good. And actually, the vampire just so fucks with the guy. Like, just tortures him psychologically. It's fucking fun. But yeah, what otherwise would have been a fairly, mundane, Stephen King adaptation becomes something so much more because... And also, this movie will always have a special place in my heart because the first time I had the wife over to where I lived, watching that movie is what we did.
Nice.
Because You know, I like bad horror movies. I genuinely like bad horror movies. Well, she made the mistake of saying she genuinely likes bad horror movies. I was like, okay, we're watching this. And, I mean...
Your idea of bad horror movies is not the same as yours?
No, it totally is.
Oh, it is? Okay.
We're still together.
Yeah. I just mean, like, in terms of, like, the level of, like, extremes.
No, we both liked it. But yeah, it's... I mean, she might not have liked it as much as me, but... yeah, it's bad. It's so bad, it's good.
Nice.
And it's so much fun. So,
I'm gonna have to take a look at that one.
Oh, it's so
Never seen it.
It's so fucking stupid. But, like, yeah, it's a delight. Nice. I'll lend it to you. So yeah, what's your favorite bad horror movie?
My favorite bad movie... Let me tell you a story. A couple of buddies of mine and I went to go see this movie in theaters, and we had to wait in a line for about an hour. Because that's how long when the line started was about an hour before the movie started. Debut, or it was like first night. My buddy had heard a lot about the movie. We both love horror movies, so we're like, you know what, let's go take a look at this movie, see what it's all about. So we get in and we start watching this movie, and everyone is just freaking out around us about the events that are occurring. And me and my buddy, like, we were, like, getting our kicks, not from the movie, but from everyone else's reaction to the movie. And we were watching the movie, and we were actually like, oh my god, these guys are so stupid. What the fuck are they doing? My movie, so, like, that's my experience, my first experience with this movie, and I've just loved it ever since, like, loved the series ever since, because it is a series of films. The Paranormal Activity films is my number one guilty pleasure. Really?
Because, honestly, the first one should have been an honorable mention for me for the good movies.
I'll give you that. Like, I do enjoy it. Like, it isn't like
the
really
first one worked.
Yeah.
After that,
yeah, it's more or less the long line of movies that keep coming out every year for them. Like, don't get me wrong, I love them to death because I love found footage. I love the idea of I love the formula they created for these movies, but they're not good. But watching people in the same theater freaking out because they're all noobs to, like, horror movies, or they're all, like, not as jaded, I guess, as I was with my buddy, watching this movie, and it's just, like, it was worth it. It was, again, it's a very similar vein as, like, the Blair Witch Project. Like, everybody freaked out over the first couple of movies, or the first movie, and then the last one was just the next one was really shit, and just kept going. Yeah, and
keep going.
Well, Paranormal Activity, I mean. Yeah, like the first one, like we get the main thing. The second, third, and fourth are all like expanding the universe of the same like story, or the same creature, the same entity, and factions that are in this world that this guy is creating. I love the world building that they did throughout the movies. The next one, the marked ones, was a spin-off to show the more like Latino. Latino like side of this whole story, because it all takes place in like those parts of like California and stuff. So it's got that kind of and the director, I believe, the filmmakers are like from that community. So they incorporated their like they added horror elements to like the themes that they have in their own like religions and stuff like that. It's definitely not a secular kind of demon. It's treated kind of like a secular demon, but then later, as it goes on, it's very much a demon from hell kind of thing. Like, they're using Solomon's seal to trap it in the last movie. And
I don't think I've seen
the last movie one. Yeah, I don't know if you'd like it or not, but they play around. By the last one, they're playing around with a camera that has been augmented from the 80s to see the ghost dimension. To see the unseen. So we're getting visual effects of this gooey, like, viscous material that's floating, like the ectoplasm. Of the creature. And then eventually we actually just get to straight up see what Toby has looked like all these years. And he looks kind of horrifying. And they have kind of a Ghostbuster thing going at the end. But then they just drop it and go like, oh, this is a horror movie. Everybody has to die. And so, yeah, the movies are, like, as they go on, they get stupider or sillier at the time, but there are moments. Like, there's literally a moment in the marked ones where shit's gone down, their friend who's been possessed by Toby, he's gone full demonic entity, so they go and call their buddies who are gang members from a gang in the city, and they they actually believe them because it happened to the one guy's brother too. So they go out with shotguns and start fighting a coven of like homicidal witches with shotguns. And, like, we never really see, like, what happens to
As you do.
Yeah, exactly. It became a Call of Cthulhu scenario, is really what happened. It was that, like, the characters investigated, something went bad, they found the cult, they called some buddies that had some good firearms, and they just had a fucking raid on a coven. On a creepy, like, sinister coven. And it was... And the witches are older women, like, midwives, is what the cult is called. And they just walk around like Terminator. They don't do any powers. They don't ever, like, visibly show any powers. They're just fucking Terminators. So yeah, I love the mythology that was built into the series. It's stupid. It's silly.
Yeah, I remember, like, when the first one first came out, I saw it. It was good. I enjoyed it.
As they just kept going.
And then, like, I heard there was a sequel, and I was like, fuck, how they... No. And I abstained.
Yeah.
Until, I think there was, like, 4 of them.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure I borrowed them off of you.
Yeah, you did, because
just to catch up. And, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything against you for putting these on your on this list, because
like I wouldn't put this on.
They were fun.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
After the first one, like, don't get me wrong, the first one is I enjoyed it. I genuinely think it was a good horror movie. Definitely got some jump scares out of me.
Oh yeah, no, that's the game. There's a game plan from.
And all of the sequels, yeah, they definitely deserve their place on this list.
Yeah, like the first one. Don't get me wrong. The first one's actually not as bad. Like, it's definitely, like, again, it's kind of a toss up between whether or not it's a guilty pleasure or a good movie. But, like, that's its shtick was jump scares. Also, it's kind of hard to say. It's like, so the beginning of the movie says, like, the filmmakers.
I say the first one has to be, like, the ending of the first one is so dark. I say it's got to be horror.
Yeah, like
a good horror movie.
My only problem is that when my one buddy who I went to see it with, he's a huge film buff, and he knew all the secrets about the movie too. So the movie starts with, like, the film company would like to thank the police department of blah 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 county and the families of blah 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 for letting us use this footage for this production. And then but then, like, after I went to go see it, spoilers, the movie actually was released online prior to Steven Spielberg getting his hands on it, because Steven Spielberg sponsored it originally.
Oh, okay.
But it had multiple endings.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to consider this, like, your immersion breaks when you realize that this had multiple endings.
Yeah.
Also, the ending for this one was just really good, because it's like, the theatrical version. This movie, actually,
to this day, I don't know which one I've seen.
It's actually kind of interesting, because the first movie got so much hype in Japan that they couldn't wait for the sequel to be made. They made their own. They did. It's called Paranormal Activity Tokyo Possession or something like that.
Tokyo Drift.
And what happens? The plot. I haven't actually seen it myself yet, because the one person that actually owns it will not let me see it because he's seen it and he doesn't want to watch it again. But
I think I see a heist coming in our future.
Right? So the movie starts. This is the start of the movie. I don't know what happens afterward, but how it connects to the first movie is that the main character is from Japan. She's a transfer student. So while she's in America, she runs over the main character, the character from the first movie, who's possessed, kills her, and then the demon's
got to go somewhere.
So the demon starts following her. And so she goes back home, and in the car accident, she hurt her legs, so she couldn't move. So she was not paraplegic. I think she couldn't use her legs for that. She was bedridden or, like, crippled for a while. Like, temporarily crippled. So she's stuck in her apartment in Japan, and paranormal things start happening around her. And so it's got that level of helplessness with the supernatural tied onto it. I loved it. Or I want to love it as soon as I go see it. So, yeah, that's why Paranormal Activity, the whole series, and whatever comes next, I don't think they can actually do another one, but I'm sure they will. The next one will have to be the Apocalypse, I think, honestly. That's what makes my number one guilty pleasure.
All right, well, fair enough. I don't know if I can top that. But I'm sure shit gonna try.
Yep. Let's hear it,
because this is how much I love this fucking thing. It's the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise. Specifically, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, because Yeah. It's just so bad. Honestly, they try so hard. And I mean, this franchise started around the same time that the Scream franchise came out, and the reason that the Scream franchise works for me and isn't in this place is because the Scream franchise is satire.
Yeah.
And this is trying to do what Scream is satirizing seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, because of that, it has to fail when you're trying to do satire seriously when you're trying to do satire without the satire.
Yeah.
It's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Now, I have to give the first movie some serious credit for their makeup artist in the first one. First off, Jennifer Love Hewitt starring. She's a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
They made her look like she had spent a year in her own personal hell in the first one. And, like, don't get me wrong, she's still Jennifer Love Hewitt, she's still beautiful, but, like, her hair is greasy, her, like, her clothes are a shambles. She doesn't care what she looks like. She looked like as much shit as she could have.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that took a certain amount of balls. Just, like, to make Jennifer Love Hewitt look as bad as possible.
Yeah.
That, gotta give them credit for that. The rest of the movie is a fucking train wreck. Personally. It does the fucking... Yeah. It hits all of the fucking beats, but it's not doing it...
in satire.
It's doing it seriously,
yeah.
And it's... And then you get to the sequel, and it's just, like... Oh my god. Honestly, it's fucking... Yeah, it's... They win a trip to a tropical resort, and, like, there just happens to be a fucking hurricane, and they're the only ones on the island, and, they actually win the trip by guessing the capital of Brazil, but they actually guessed wrong. And that's what? Like, that's their clue that something's up once they're, like, in the shit already. Like, once they're on the island, basically the monsoon or hurricane, whatever, has hit, and, like, shit's not right, and they realize, oh, fuck, Rio isn't the capital of Brazil. Granted, I don't know what the capital of Brazil is, even though they tell you in the movie, but, you know, that's how many fucks I give while I'm watching this movie.
Yeah.
And it's so bad. The first one has merits. The second one, I honestly don't think it does have any merits, and that's the fun part. I mean, just everything about it is so cliche, so bad, so horrible. And then you've got I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, which is completely unrelated.
I was going to say, it's like, yeah, I remember that one. I remember that one coming out after.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll always know what you did last summer.
That one is completely unrelated. There are no characters from the earlier ones, but at the same time, it's just as bad as, the first one at least.
Sorry, I just need to interject. I did look up what the capital of Brazil was. First thing that came up, capital of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. But but then you actually, like, when I actually hit the Google search, it comes up, capital of Brazil is actually called Brasilia, and before that, apparently, it was Salvador.
So, yeah.
It's just...
But, yeah, it's so bad. It's so very, very bad. But, honestly, I first saw it, when it aired on TV, and I was just, like, it was a late night, I was up, it was, I had 4 channels to pick from, and this was the best thing on.
Yeah.
And it was just, like, because, when I was a teenager, I was a fucking borderline insomniac, and, like, I was gonna be up all fucking night. This is a good way to kill a couple of hours, or so I thought, and, yeah, I don't know. I so very didn't get invested in this movie, but I got so very invested in seeing what was gonna come next.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you people gonna do? I haven't even seen the first one. I don't feel like I'm lost at all. And, I don't know, it's just... I made a decision right then and there that this is going to be my favorite bad movie of all time.
Nice.
And...
It still holds up.
Oh god, yeah. It has yet to be dethroned. I mean, Night Flyer fucking came close. But this, I don't know, this is just, it's such a perfect storm of horrible movie. And it was, I think it was when I realized for the first time that I'm watching a bad movie and loving it.
Yeah.
Like, I had watched bad movies before and loved them, but I didn't know I was watching a bad movie. I was just having fun. Mm-hmm. So I thought I was watching a good movie. That Poltergeist 3 was actually like that. I didn't know I was watching a bad movie until later.
Yeah.
But this, this is the first time I knew I was watching a bad movie, and I was enjoying the ever-living shit out of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe it might have topped my list partially out of nostalgia. Of that moment of realization that this is so bad, it's good.
Yeah. No, that is actually, like, that does play, like, that's always going to play a major factor in these lists, because then, like, if you don't have the nostalgia...
These are my top 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Not your top 5. These are my top 5.
Exactly, exactly.
And that's why it's at the top, is because, it was clearly a milestone in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Such an important moment.
Yeah. Alright, so... moving to the runners-up, I guess.
Yes, the honorable mentions for...
The final list of runners-ups for Guilty Pleasures. Number 5 on my list is The Beyond, which is a Lucio Fulci film from 1981. It's one of those Italian horror films. I recently discovered it, like, last couple of years, and I enjoyed the fuck out of it because it has Lovecraft... It's loosely based off of a Lovecraft story, but it's just got that amazing, cheesy, stupid acting of Italian horror movies. Like, where you're not sure if most or if all of the actors are actually are actually Italian, or if they had some American English actors in it. It's just a good fucking romp into the old Italian horror movies and the Italian zombie movies, because those things were graphic as shit with like with low budget. So like most of the gore is like cornmeal or like just like really like cheesy looking like gore effects, and lots of blood, tons of corn syrup. And it actually has a really cool thing at the like where it tied there's a painting in the movie that's looked really good. Like actually, I want that on my wall of this desolate field of like existence. Like it's like the end days kind of thing, and like their people are like the statues of Pompeii, the people of Pompeii, where they're like plaster cast versions of themselves, but they're like halfway into the ground and like in terror and like lying down. And in this movie, like at the end, like we get a cool little scene where they go into the Hellgate underneath this house, and they are in that painting. It's the set is that painting, and it was just really well constructed. But otherwise, it's like a shitty movie. Like the acting and the dialogue is so bad, and like the acting is it's so good, it's so bad. Next one is Rec 3. So the first two encapsulated, revamped the zombie franchise and added found footage to it. Gave us a really cool like take on the zombie on like a possible coming zombie apocalypse and stuff. The third movie decided I think one of the two filmmakers went away for a bit, and the other guy had some ideas that he just wanted to get down. So we start off it starts off at a wedding with found footage to that.
I thought these parts
were
supposed to be lists.
I apologize. Okay, yeah. So whereas the first two Rec movies are good like zombie flicks, this one is just repeating the same formula that zombie movies follow. It's fun. It's campy. I would not consider it a good like on par with the first two though. So that's why it's in my honorable mentions. The Blair Witch Project 2: Book of Shadows. Just a fun fucking 90s style horror movie.
It's so bad.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with the Blair Witch Project, except for the fact that the Blair Witch Project is a movie within a movie. Like it's a reaction. It's almost like a reactionary concept to the movie that Blair Witch and the craze that happened around Blair Witch.
And it's not even a found footage movie, which probably lost a lot of people.
Yeah, it honestly, well, from what I understand,
it's the second part in a trilogy that never saw fruition.
Exactly. And apparently it was also based off of it was actually originally the script was not supposed to be Blair Witch Project. It was much like some of the Hellraiser movies, like you mentioned earlier. It was supposed to be something else, and they just took the script and re-scripted it to have Blair Witch Project. So it's a fun movie to watch, if not only just because of how stupid and how like hammy and campy the characters react to the supernatural. Or is it supernatural? Next one is Cloverfield. Another found footage movie. I think some people probably contest me on whether or not it's a good movie or if it's a bad movie. It's a fun movie. It's a fun romp through a giant monster movie.
I've honestly never been able. Every time I've tried to watch this twice, and I've fallen asleep both times. Like, there are
definitely some slow parts. So yeah, I can see why you got. Actually, I recently rewatched it. And yeah, like there are some slow parts, but there are parts of it that just like they're just super, again, campy and like silly, but with this horror element like of a giant fucking monster smashing through.
I honestly don't think that the giant monster has made an appearance any time I've tried to watch this.
Really?
Yeah, that's how quickly I get bored and fall asleep with this.
You probably don't even make it past the party then.
I remember the party. I don't know if I've made it past the party.
That's probably it, because the party is pretty slow, because it had some character drama that really didn't need... Like, I mean,
I want to see a monster!
Exactly. So I'm hoping that the 10 Cloverfield Lane is, since it's not a direct sequel, it's just it's connected somehow.
John Goodman and a bunch of people locked in a bunker.
Exactly.
Hells yes.
I hope that one actually exceeds...
Like, I haven't seen it yet. I know it's on both mine and the wife's list to watch, though.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, because honestly, I just love John Goodman.
Yeah. And my number one runners-up, and again, this is like... I have tons of other ones, but these are the ones that stood out. The Stuff. A Larry Cohen horror movie from 1985 that is essentially every Call of Cthulhu game ever that I've ever heard or run, where the characters, the plot of it is just everybody. There's something weird that's taken over people, that's making people obsessive and cultish. They go to a house, to deal with it, and they bring in heavy guns for reasons, and they do a huge battle with the cult and the monster. And they have a hard time dealing with the monster. It's a super campy horror flick. There's a lot of really cool scenes in it, but otherwise it's just really silly and over the top because it's such a simple concept. Yogurt is the monster. Yogurt from the ground. Some guy finds yogurt pouring out of the ground, tastes it, finds that it's amazing.
As you do.
Yeah, finds that it's amazing, and decides to start collecting it and rebranding it, and eventually they just start mining the stuff. And it's half the movie's charm is all the commercials they came up with to sell the stuff. Like they even have a catchy little tune for the stuff for the commercials of the stuff, and it's just so retarded and so funny. I love it as a horror movie because it tries to be a horror movie at the same time. And then they also call in this paramilitary group that has like Tommy guns in the 80s, and that's what they're using as their main weapon. And it literally, like, that's another reason why it reminded me of a Call of Cthulhu scenario, where it was just, like, Thompsons, like, fighting the mythos.
Maybe at one point it was supposed to be set in, like, the 20s.
Yeah. I'm thinking it must have been, but, yeah. Larry Cohen, like, his touch on movies, most of his movies tend to have, like, a procedural detective angle, and this one definitely has that. So, yeah, that's my runners-ups. The Stuff, Cloverfield, Blair Witch 2, Rec 3, and beyond.
Alright, well, for me, like I said, so many Stephen King movies. Definitely, I mean, the entire Evil Dead franchise. Someone's got to say it, so it might as well be me.
Yeah.
It's a live franchise. If you haven't, like...
Actually haven't seen... I think that's a Larry Cohen movie, too.
I don't even know. Yeah. They're so fucking fun.
Yeah. I do need to see that.
Demonic Toys. That one was just... Oh, man, that was... There is, in my opinion, a trilogy of movies that exists. Demonic Toys, Dollman, and Dollman versus Demonic Toys. Yeah, that's a 3-pack. You will not fucking get a... Oh, man, just... Oh, fuck. what else? Like, so many bad movies that are just so much fun. I mean, honestly, half the fucking Hellraiser franchise should be on that. But I like them, so I think they're great.
And as we've said, you are just the epitome of unbiased opinion.
Exactly.
On this show.
Starship Troopers 2, because Starship Troopers, not a horror movie.
Yeah.
Starship Troopers 2 is a horror movie set in the Starship Troopers universe, and it is horrible. But it's still Starship Troopers, so I still kind of want to love it. But it's bad.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Honestly, I could go through my movie collection and just find so many bad horror movies that are fun. Yeah, basically anything from, like, the later fucking slasher movies. Like, the franchises that everyone knows and think they love. Like, the last 3 quarters are just bad movies.
Yeah. They're fun to watch, but they're not.
I'm not
great.
saying they're not fun to watch, but they're bad movies.
Like, at a certain point, you
and
find
that's what makes them so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Honestly, in my opinion, the 2 Rob Zombie Halloween movies are just such a fucking train wreck. But they're not fun, but I can understand how other people could enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it because they're walking all over John Carter.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons I actually, I came out of it, I enjoyed the movie, but at the same time, I didn't really get why this movie had to be made.
If they'd have been called anything else, I probably could have loved them.
Yeah.
Because they're so fucking far removed that I wouldn't have... I'd been like, oh, I can kind of see some Halloween. Maybe he's inspired by Halloween. But I wouldn't have fucking guessed it was a remake.
Yeah.
There's some that I know I'm missing and I know I'm going to kick myself for because I didn't honestly want to kill so many trees and by writing all of these down.
That's why we have to put them down to 5 because, I mean, it's not to say that we don't like other movies, like any more or
oh
any
god,
less.
my list will change.
Tons. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's just the nature of it.
There will be movies that I've already seen that will end up on...
Yeah.
That will end up usurping things on this list.
My list changed, up until, last night when I went and jotted down the list proper.
Yes. Definitely needs an honorable mention for So Bad It's Good. Monkey Shines. And I gotta go into a bit of description on this. Guy gets paralyzed, gets a helper monkey. Helper monkey falls in love with him, starts going crazy. Starts becoming, obsessed in love with him. Yep. Targets the girlfriend. And the thing that makes it so bad it's good, paraplegic sex scene.
Alright.
There is, yep. On that note, I gotta end because I can't top that description of that movie.
Alright. So, this has been a long journey. I'm actually still, prior to this, I'm still even, amazed at 100 episodes.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, you too. And thank you, listeners. If you've been listening to us from the get-go, or if you just stumbled upon our show, hopefully these lists, these behemoths of description, and our genuine love of these movies, and will kind of give you a hint in the future of why we pick. Why some of us like and some of us dislike certain creepypastas.
Hopefully this gives you a window into our opinions.
Yeah, to tell you where we stand. So, if you like this stuff from, that's why, Dr. Leviathan hated this thing in the show, or liked this thing in the show, because you don't always hate things, and I don't always like things.
No, and honestly, I've just listed off, a shit ton of movies that I like.
Yeah.
And I like some of them because they're bad.
Exactly. So
when I can't like creepypasta, even though it's bad, it's not my fault. It's the boss's fault.
Yes. So if you enjoyed our little conversation or your little delve into our favorite movies, or you didn't, or you have your own opinions about what we said, by all means, put them in the comments.
Well, and I mean,
we'll read them.
We'll definitely read them. And if you've got, suggestions, oh man, if you liked that horrible movie, especially horrible movies, because good movies, I'll probably find it on my own, personally.
Yeah.
But bad movies, sometimes you just don't look. Sometimes you don't find bad movies.
The stuff took me, this year to find, and it's been around forever.
Yeah.
And I was surprised.
It's Alive is a horror franchise from, the 80s. It gotta be at least the 80s. Oh, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. This is actually a really good horror movie. Suspiria.
Yes, absolutely.
Love that movie.
By not by Lucio Fulci, but by one of the Italian horror.
Dino De Laurentiis, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great music, great atmosphere.
So good. When me and the wife were consolidating our movie collections, we both had a copy. And for us to both have a copy of such a random fucking movie, there's got to be something.
Can I actually borrow that? Because I actually have not watched that in full.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you have to. It's good. It's good. It's definitely good.
But yeah, definitely that one.
Yeah, I guess that's my Italian contribution to these lists. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah, and definitely, send us suggestions for movies that you'd like us to, that we'd like, bad ones or otherwise. And of course, as always, send us suggestions for creepypastas. You can put them in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Kiwi6, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. We're both on Twitter, Dr. Leviathan and Review Cultist. And you can also send them through email at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. And if you would like to support us, you can donate. Go to crazonstudios.tumblr.com where you can check out each title card for each episode. And on the side, there's a little donate button. So until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm still Dr. Leviathan.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis, our 100th episode. Sleep well.
Shit, I can't remember mine. It's because it's actually... Fuck, I was looking at the shelf of horror movies. Well, the shelves of horror movies.
Yeah.
And I rewrote it because I wasn't exactly happy with the last one I put on. So now I have to fucking find it or find the cover that got me thinking. So this is going to take some time. It's annoying. Right, that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.